It's my great honor and privilege to have served the past year as president of the Academy of Medicine, Engineering, and Science of Texas. What a special academy that is. It's unique. We have certainly brought in some new members in the academies. We have awarded our young rising stars. So tonight, we're honored to welcome 15 new members, 11 of whom are here to receive their pins, and we'll get to that later. But I wanted to tell you that we have a record number of members in the Academy, 273 this year. And that's the highest level in our history. So we are very fortunate tonight to have with us Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, who will introduce our new Chancellor of the UT system, Admiral William McRaven. But I want to say a couple of words about Kay Bailey Hutchison before I put her on the stage. I think all of you know that it was her brainstorm to form such an academy as this. Probably wasn't thought of as an academy at the time, but it evolved into that. But it was done in such a thoughtful way to promote research in the state of Texas. And she has always been a great champion of that, among other things, higher education, military families, supporting them, and of course defense. So we should be ever grateful to the service that Senator Hutchison gave us during her years in the Senate. And it's my great privilege to introduce her, who will introduce Admiral McRaven. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Betty Sue, and thank you for leading this great organization. You know, it has evolved over the years, and I'm most proud of this group right here, because one of the it wasn't the focus of TAMEST to get more members of national academies into Texas, but it was the second reason that we formed TAMEST. The first was to have more research and to bring the great researchers in, and then to make sure that they had the recognition that they would be elected by the National Academy members to be in the academies. And I couldn't be more proud that several of the people who have made presentations to the annual meetings that we've had have then later been elected to the National Academy because they became stars. And I love it when the O'Donnell Award winners also become members of the Academy because one of the criteria for the O'Donnell Award is that a member of a National Academy can't compete. And so I look at Dr. Curl, one of our Nobel laureates who helped us make these rules, and of course Rick Smalley, his partner, said, no, we want the young, new researchers to know that they have a place of honor in Texas. And that's why the focus was on bringing the new members in. So I love that I'm looking at all the new members who've come in, and it was one of the things that we wanted to achieve. And this has just been a labor of love for me and for all the people who put it together so carefully. I sat back and watched as the Nobel laureates and the chancellors and presidents of our research universities really put together the constitution, if you will, of the organization to make it enduring and last. And so it's just a wonderful thing that we are still going strong. And I am also going to say that I think the importance of TAMEST and what it is doing for Texas is one of the reasons why, after a big 3 weeks in office, Admiral McRaven has decided to come here to talk to you and has said that he'll take your questions. So be thinking of the things that you would want to see him talk about as his priorities. But I am really proud that we have a chancellor that is coming in like Admiral McRaven, because he is revered all over the world and certainly by everyone who has worked with him. And I loved the fact that when I was in the Senate, someone who was doing so much and was so respected was not only a Texan, but a graduate of the University of Texas. And so I bonded with him immediately. And even though, as I have said, my biggest surprise about him was that he was a journalism major at the University of Texas and still did so well. Well, he is the 11th chancellor of the University of Texas system and the second UT graduate to hold that role. In 2011, I spoke to the UT Austin commencement. Unlike Admiral McRaven speaking last year, mine did not go viral. I did not get 2,500,000 hits on my speech. He did. But I will say that the biggest applause line, the cheers that I got in the middle of my speech, is when I said that everyone in America probably expected that the man who implemented and planned the end of Osama bin Laden would have been a distinguished graduate of the Naval Academy. But he was not. He was Naval ROTC at the University of Texas at Austin. And people cheered and laughed. So I thank you for giving me my best line. And I think that your speech, which did go viral, really got the attention of so many people about what it takes to succeed in leadership. And leadership is what Bill McRaven is bringing to Texas, back home where he knows his roots and wants to pay back. He rose to the top of his profession, a 4-star admiral, after 37 years as a Navy SEAL. He was rated at one time by Foreign Policy magazine as one of the 10 top foreign policy experts in America. His graduate thesis, The Theory of Special Operations, was published as a book by Random House in 1995, selling over 60,000 copies, and is considered a must-read by Special Ops forces and throughout the Department of Defense today, because it was so thorough and also sort of set what Special Ops should be and how you could defeat bigger armies with smaller forces by the use of certain techniques. If I had to sum up, though, what is really impressing people in Texas today is what has impressed those around the world who have worked with him and known him throughout his years in the Navy, and that is leadership. It's not the flashy, glad-handing, studied leadership, but a natural, trust-building, confidence-building kind of leadership that is exactly what our flagship university in Texas needs. I'm encouraged because in all the things that he has put out in his first 3 weeks in office, one of the highest priorities he has is the development of research in our higher education institutions. And I know that's why he is here today in his first month in office. So with all the people who are pulling at him, he chose to come here tonight, even though he was almost fogged in Austin. And I really appreciate the effort that he made to come and be with us and let you know how important TAMEST is to him and to Texas, that we continue to keep its vibrance with your leadership. And I am proud to introduce the 11th Chancellor of the University of Texas System, Admiral Bill McRaven.
Well, thanks very much, Kay. I tell you, I did not expect when I came here tonight that I would bump into a number of old friends. I saw Gordon England in the crowd. As you know, Gordon was the former Secretary of the Navy, and I worked for him many, many times, a phenomenal leader within the Navy. And of course, as I look around and see a number of my presidents and provosts here, it is great to be with you. But Kay, again, Senator Hutchinson, let me thank you for really what may have been the nicest introduction I have ever had. And let me also thank you for your tremendous support to the men and women in uniform. As Kay said, she and I had an opportunity when she was in the Senate and I was in uniform to work together, and there were few senators I know that took more time and cared more about the men and women in uniform than Kay Hutchinson, and I greatly appreciate it. And I will tell you, your leadership and your passion was noticed everywhere in the Pentagon, so thank you. Additionally, you know, the work that you have done to bring more R&D dollars here to Texas is just phenomenal. I think the nation and the world needs to know that there is no better place in the world, in the U.S., to invest their R&D dollars than here in Texas. And Kay, you have resoundingly echoed that message, and I appreciate it. And this wonderful academy, of which you were so instrumental in founding, will continue to shine a light on our magnificent leaders in medicine and engineering and in science. So Kay, you have my promise that as the Chancellor of the UT system, I will be one of your strongest advocates for more investment in these vitally important areas. And I will work across the education, research, and technology institutions to ensure that we are doing what is best for all Texans. I'd also like to thank Board President Betty Sue Masters and the members of TAMEST for inviting me here to share a few of my thoughts this evening. One of the first things I did as Chancellor was to go up and meet Peter O'Donnell and thank him for all he has done to advance medicine, engineering, science, and technology innovation in our state. Peter knows what it means to bring Nobel laureates and distinguished Academy members to Texas. He understands what it takes to develop and produce our research giants. And so it was gratifying to learn the TAMEST Edith and Peter O'Donnell Award recognizes Texas researchers whose work meets the highest standards of excellence. We just can't thank Peter and Edith enough. And congratulations as well to the new members of TAMEST. Your accomplishments have put you in company of nearly 300, what I hear, 270 colleagues with exceptional achievements in their field. And to all the members of TAMEST, I am incredibly impressed by your achievements. The recognition you have received from your peers in the national and international arenas, your awards and your accolades, and your selection into this prestigious academy is truly remarkable. Okay, those were my prepared remarks. But let me say again that you really do have my deepest respects and admiration. But as I prepared my remarks tonight, I tell you I had to reach out and Google what TAMEST was. The real reason I came here tonight was not because I understood the depth of what TAMEST did, was because Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson asked me to come here tonight. And when the senator asks you to do something, I may have just come back to Texas, but I tell you, I know when you come to Texas and Kay asks you to do something, you do it. So that is why I am here tonight, to tell the truth. But when I Googled TAMEST, you'll be happy to know that when you put in the letters T-A-M-E-S-T, the first thing that pops up is, in fact, the Academy of Medicine, Science, and Engineering of Texas. It is TAMEST.org. But immediately down the Google line is the word TAMEST. And dictionary.org defines it as fearless, naturally unafraid, and without shyness. And I think it is a very interesting correlation, because to me, that's exactly what we expect of our great researchers, our doctors, and our scientists, to be fearless, unafraid, and without any shyness. Because if we are not bold and audacious in our goals, then our accomplishments will be pedestrian and likely without any real substance. So I encourage you to continue to challenge conventional wisdom at every turn, to dream big, to take risk, to recognize failure as a speed bump on every road to greatness, and to know that your efforts are appreciated and respected by everyone who matters. You know, I come from a military culture of boldness, of calculated risks, but a culture that relied heavily on advances in medicine and technology. Navy SEALs and our special operations folks are the best in the world because we start with incredibly motivated young men and women, and we provide them with state-of-the-art equipment to get the job done. But that equipment, that technology, didn't arrive overnight. It was the product of years of hard, persistent research by incredibly dedicated men and women. It was the product of long-term investment, some of which didn't pan out. But much of it resulted in tectonic shifts in how we did business. I remember the first time I was given a global positioning system. It was called Merlin, and it was the size of a breadbasket. It was 1990, and I was preparing to conduct an amphibious landing during Operation Desert Storm. For the previous 60 years, Navy SEALs and Navy frogmen had used terrain features and maps to identify what we called center beach. You had to know where the center of the beach was so you could establish beach lanes in order for the Marines to land. So knowing exactly where center beach was critical to the success of an amphibious landing and literally the lives of the Marines and sailors. But the problem with landing on a flat beach, as the desert was, where there are no terrain features, and without precise instrumentation, success is almost impossible. The developers from the labs, so these guys came out from the labs to talk to us about Merlin. Again, this is 1990. We are getting ready to embark on a ship and go to Desert Shield, eventually Desert Storm, and they hand me this thing, and they said, "Trust me, son, this will be able to tell you exactly where center beach was." It had more goddamn buttons than you've ever seen. We really did think that these mad scientists were a little bit crazy, but they weren't. With Merlin, we were able to fix center beach to within 1 meter of its location. And when you think about 1990, back then you were lucky, even with GPSs, to get 10 or maybe 100 meters, and we got 1 meter. GPS had just changed everything about warfare. But GPS didn't develop overnight. Neither did night vision goggles or frequency hopping radios or unmanned aerial vehicles or advances in trauma care and prosthetics for our wounded warriors. It all required investment in people, facilities, and time. And of course, all of these advances subsequently enhanced the quality of life of the average American. I believe in what each of you are doing because, frankly, I doubt I would be here today were it not for what occurred in the labs and the classrooms around the nation and here in Texas. 5 years ago, while I was fighting in Afghanistan, I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Today, with the advent of big data, stem cell research, evidence-based care, much of which began here in Texas, I am confident that we are going to find a cure to CLL. Just like I am confident that research going on across the Texas medical facilities will create new breakthroughs in how we approach diagnosis and treatment of a whole range of diseases. I also have to admit that I'm a tech geek. Not that I have any programming skills or engineering skills. My son, who I'm very proud of, who is a PhD in theoretical physics, he got all that. He got my wife's brains. But I know a little bit about good science and good technology. And about 2 years ago, while I was still the head of U.S. Special Operations Command, one of my SEAL commanders approached me with a question I couldn't answer. Earlier that year, during a hostage rescue mission in Afghanistan, the first SEAL through the compound door was killed by a Taliban fighter with an automatic weapon. While the fighter was eventually killed by the next man through the door and the hostage was rescued, we lost a great young man. The SEAL commander asked me, why after 13 years of fighting, don't we have the means to protect our men against automatic weapons? Where is our Iron Man suit, he asked. We had great ballistic armor, but it only protected the top of the head and the body area. So at U.S. Special Operations Command, we set out to build the Iron Man suit. Of course, Marvel Comics wasn't too happy with our choice of names, so we changed it to Talos, the Tactical Assault Light Operator suit, but it was still known as the Iron Man suit. And I was happy to call it the Iron Man suit. Over the course of 18 months, we pulled industry, academia, national labs, federal and state governments together, and we broke down barriers to share IP, to collaboration, and to funding. We were on a mission to build the Iron Man suit so that we could protect the soldier and the fireman and the policeman and the explosive ordnance disposal tech. We worked through problems of power and weight and communication and human factors, everything imaginable to put a man in a completely covered environment, protected environment, where he could shoot, move, and communicate. And we're not there yet, but the progress has been stunning. And I expect that within 3 to 5 years, we will have the Iron Man suit that will be able to do everything we envisioned, but fly. And we're working on that. But it all started with a problem, and people willing to invest, to share, and to dedicate their time and their passion in order to solve that problem. The research performed by the members of TAMEST is all that and much, much more. We must continue to tackle these grand challenges. Together, we must develop basic sciences and solutions that can eradicate disease, such as Ebola and cancer. We must solve problems, such as shortage of water, energy, and food. We must use computational science to push the boundaries of understanding the human body, and we must constantly strive to live in a balanced ecosystem, respectful of the other species that inhabit this very small planet. And we can do this. So as the Chancellor of the University of Texas, as an affiliate member of this academy, I pledge my full support to you. I will work both in Texas and in Washington to secure more funding for your work. I am committed to help TAMEST, its members and institutions in your efforts to increase the visibility of Texas research on a national and global scale. When there is a national dialogue on medicine, science, and technology, I want people to ask, what does Texas think? Where is Texas on this issue? What is Texas doing about this? I don't want them to ask, what does California think or what does New York think? I want them to ask what Texas thinks about this. We should be in every conversation. So thank you all very much for inviting me here tonight. Again, I look forward to spending many more years with you, much more time with you over the years, and helping to make Texas the center of R&D for medicine, science, and technology. Thank you very, very much.